First to the scale, the headliner, the number 8th ranked middleweight, Roman Dolidze. 186 for Roman Dolidze. All right, ladies and gentlemen, up next on the scale, your UFC Fight Night main event. The number 11 ranked middleweight, Nassourdine, the Sniper, Imavov. 185 for Nassourdine Imavov. Up next on the scale, the number 15th ranked lightweight, Drew Dober. 156 for Drew Dober. Up next on the scale in the UFC featherweight division, Blake Builder. $144.5 for Blake Builder. Up next on the scale from the women's strawweight division, Meatball Molly McCann. 116 for Molly McCann. Up next on the scale from the UFC women's flyweight division, the number 9th ranked Natalia Silva. 125.5 for Natalia Silva. Up next on the scale from the welterweight division, Pete Dead Game Rodriguez. 170 for Pete Rodriguez. Up next from the UFC women's flyweight division, Julia Stoliarenko. 126. Up next on the scale from the UFC welterweight division, Themba the Answer Gorimbo. 170.5 for Themba Gorimbo. Up next on the scale from the UFC lightweight division, Landon the Lone Wolf Quinones. 155.5 for Landon Quinones. Up next from the UFC flyweight division, the pride of St. Louis, Charles Energy Johnson. 125.5 for Charles Johnson. Up next on the scale, the co-main event in the UFC lightweight division, Renato Moicano. 156 for the 13th ranked Renato Moicano. Up next from the UFC featherweight division, Zhang Yong Lee. 146 for Zhang Yong Lee. Up next from the UFC middleweight division, Ali Asab Hizriev. 186 for Ali Azhazab Hizriev. Up next on the scale, his opponent, Mahmoud Muradov. 185.5 for Mahmoud Muradov. Up next from the UFC welterweight division, Muslim Salihov. 171 for Muslim Salihov. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, up next on the scale, UFC flyweight, Azat Maksum. 126 for Azat Maksum. All right, ladies and gentlemen, your first bout tomorrow night from the UFC heavyweight division, the Stormtrooper, Jamal Pogues. 265.5 for Jamal Pogues. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the first fight tomorrow night from the heavyweight division, Thomas the Train Peterson. 261.5 for Thomas Peterson. Okay, up next on the scale, the UFC Women's Strawweight Division, Diana, the Warrior Princess Belpita. $116 for Diana Belpita. All right, ladies and gentlemen, up next on the scale from the UFC Welterweight Division, Randy Rude Boy Brown. $171 for Randy Brown. All right, up next on the scale from the UFC Welterweight Division, Charles Chuck Buffalo Radke. $170.5 for Charles Radke. All right, ladies and gentlemen, your UFC lightweight, Markel Medeiros. $155.5 for Markel Medeiros. All right, ladies and gentlemen, opening up tomorrow night's main card from the UFC Welterweight Division, the RGV Bad Boy, Gilbert Urbina. $171 for Gilbert Urbina. All right, ladies and gentlemen, up next on the scale from the UFC Women's Flyweight Division, Luana Carolina. $129 for Luana Carolina. All right, ladies and gentlemen, up next on the scale, the Women's Flyweight Division, the number 7 ranked, Vivian Araujo. $126 for Vivian Araujo.